The massive station called Nexus Prime floated in empty space between three star systems. Ships from dozens of different worlds docked at its ports every day. Today was special, though. The Galactic Defense Council was meeting to decide if Earth could join their military alliance. Admiral Lisa Hayes walked through the curved hallways of the station. Her blue uniform looked simple compared to the fancy armor and robes worn by alien delegates. Captain Jake Morrison followed behind her, carrying a data pad with Earth's military files. "Are you sure about this, Admiral?" Jake asked quietly. "These aliens have been fighting in space for thousands of years. We just started leaving our solar system 50 years ago." Lisa smiled, but did not turn around. "Jake, sometimes being new is better than being old and set in your ways." They entered the main council chamber. The room was huge, with seats arranged in a circle around a central platform. Hundreds of different alien species sat in those seats. Some looked like giant insects. Others were made of living crystal. A few looked almost human, but with strange skin colors and extra arms. High Commander Zixth of the Zephyrian Empire sat in the largest chair. His insect-like body was covered in black armor. 4 arms gestured as he spoke to other delegates. The Zephyrians controlled the most planets in the galaxy. Next to him sat Admiral Crystalex of the Voltari Federation. Her crystal body caught the light and threw rainbows across the walls. The Voltari had the most advanced technology in known space. War Prime Gorthak of the Kelthan clans occupied a massive throne-like seat. His red skin was covered in battle scars. The Kelthans were famous warriors who had never lost a major war. Smaller alien with green skin called out, "The Earth delegation may now present their case." Lisa stepped onto the central platform. Holographic displays showed Earth's solar system and their small fleet of ships. Jake activated the presentation from his data pad. "Honored delegates," Lisa began. "Earth requests membership in the Galactic Military Alliance. We offer our naval forces to help defend civilized space against any threats." A low buzzing sound filled the chamber. The Zephyrians were laughing. Their species made that noise when they found something funny. High Commander Zixth stood up. "Did the humans say naval forces? Do they mean those metal containers they float on their planet's water?" More laughter echoed through the chamber. Admiral Crystalex's crystal body flashed bright colors. "We have reviewed Earth's military files. Their largest ships are designed to travel on liquid oceans. How primitive." Lisa kept her face calm. "Earth's naval tradition spans over 3,000 years. We have learned much about coordinated warfare and fleet tactics." War Prime Gorthak's deep voice boomed across the chamber. "Coordinated warfare? Child, we have been fighting in the void since before your species discovered fire. Your little boats might work on your water world, but space is different." A delegate from the Thrakari Dominion stood up. His snake-like body swayed as he spoke. "The humans think their ancient water battles matter in stellar warfare." How amusing. Jake felt his face turn red with anger. These aliens were treating Earth like children playing with toys. He started to step forward, but Lisa held up one hand to stop him. "Perhaps," said High Commander Zixth, "the humans could demonstrate their naval prowess by engaging our training vessels. It would be educational for all of us." The chamber filled with more laughter. Even the smaller alien species were making jokes about Earth's ships. Admiral Crystalex projected a hologram showing Earth's largest battleship next to a Voltari cruiser. The human ship looked tiny by comparison. Look how small their vessels are. One of our fighters could destroy their entire fleet. War Prime Gorthak slammed his fist on his throne's armrest. This is waste of time. Perhaps in a few centuries, when these humans learn to build proper void ships instead of their cute water toys, they may petition us again. The Kelthan leader stood up to his full height of nearly 3 meters. Until then, they should stay in their little solar system and play in their oceans. Lisa waited for the laughter to die down. When the chamber was quiet again, she spoke in a clear voice. We accept your challenge. Earth will participate in the defense trials. High Commander Zix's 4 eyes focused on her. You are serious? You wish to test your primitive vessels against proper warships? We are completely serious, Lisa replied. We will be ready for the trials in 30 solar cycles. The alien delegates looked at each other with surprise. Most had expected the humans to back down after being mocked. Admiral Crystallex's body flashed yellow, which meant confusion in Voltari body language. Very well, the trials will take place in the Kepler 442 system, standard defense scenarios. You may bring whatever ships you have. War Prime Gorthak laughed again. This should be entertaining. I will personally oversee the trials to ensure they are conducted properly. Lisa nodded politely. Thank you for this opportunity. Earth will not disappoint you. She turned and walked toward the exit. Jake followed, still feeling angry about how the aliens had treated them. As they left the chamber, Jake could hear the delegates making more jokes about Earth's navy. Some were already placing bets on how quickly the human ships would be destroyed. Once they were in the hallway, Jake finally spoke. Admiral, are we making a huge mistake? Those aliens have technology we can't even understand. Their ships are massive compared to ours. Lisa stopped walking and looked at him. Jake, tell me what you know about Earth's naval history. Well, we've been fighting on the oceans for thousands of years. We developed tactics for fleet battles, submarine warfare, carrier operations. And what made the difference between winning and losing those battles? Jake thought for a moment. Usually it wasn't just about having the biggest ships. It was about coordination, tactics, knowing how to work together as a fleet. Lisa smiled. Exactly. Those aliens in there fight like individual warriors. Each ship operates alone, trying to prove how strong it is. They've never learned what we know. What do we know that they don't? That the ocean doesn't care how brave you are or how big your ship is. It only respects preparation, teamwork, and the wisdom that comes from fighting storms that could kill you. Lisa started walking. Again. Space is just a bigger ocean, Jake. They reached their shuttle bay where Earth's small diplomatic vessel waited. As they climbed aboard, Jake asked one more question. What if our ships really are too small and primitive? Lisa strapped herself into the pilot's seat and started the engines. Then we'll lose honorably. But Jake, they've never seen what happens when you take a naval tradition spanning centuries and give it the resources of an entire star system. The shuttle left Nexus Prime and headed toward Earth. Behind them, the alien delegates continued their meeting, confident that the upcoming trials would be a brief and amusing demonstration of human foolishness. None of them suspected that Earth had been preparing for this moment since the day they first learned they were not alone in the universe. The trials would indeed be educational, but not in the way the aliens expected. Commander Ryan Clark floated in zero gravity outside the Luna naval shipyards. Through his helmet's visor, he could see the most beautiful and terrifying sight in human space. The USS Leviathan hung in the construction bay like a sleeping giant. The ship was massive beyond anything Earth had ever built before. Its hull stretched for over 2 kilometers, longer than any alien dreadnought in the known galaxy. The dark metal surface was covered in what looked like scales, giving it the appearance of some ancient sea monster. "Commander Clark, please report. To Base 7 for final inspection," came the voice through his radio. Ryan activated his suit's thrusters and flew toward the ship's main airlock. As he moved closer, he could see work crews putting finishing touches on the weapon systems. Massive gun turrets that could rotate in any direction were being tested. Point defense systems that looked like clusters of thorns covered every surface. Inside the ship, Chief Engineer Amy Foster was running diagnostics on the main engines. She had been working on this project for 5 years, ever since Earth's leaders decided they needed something special for their eventual encounter with galactic powers. "How are we looking, Amy?" Ryan asked as he entered the engineering section. Amy wiped sweat from her forehead. "Better than good. The fusion reactors are running at 102% efficiency. The armor plating is responding perfectly to impact tests. And the weapons systems," she smiled. "Let's just say the aliens are in for a surprise." Hai nodded and continued his inspection tour. The USS Leviathan was not just bigger than other human ships. It was completely different. Every system had been designed using lessons learned from centuries of naval warfare on Earth's oceans. The ship's armor was not just thick metal plates. It was made of overlapping sections that could flex and move like the skin of a whale. When projectiles hit it, the armor would absorb and distribute the impact across the entire hull. The weapon systems were designed to work together like a pack of wolves. Instead of each gun operating independently, they were all controlled by a central targeting system that could coordinate attacks from dozens of weapons at once. Most importantly, the command structure was based on naval traditions that went back to the age of sailing ships. Every crew member knew their job and how it fit into the larger mission. They had trained together for months until they could work as one unit. Lieutenant Commander Ben Rogers sat in the tactical center, reviewing intelligence reports about alien military forces. The information was troubling, but also encouraging. "The Zephyrians use swarm tactics," he explained to Captain Sarah Davis. "They send hundreds of small ships at their enemies and overwhelm them with numbers. But their ships don't coordinate well. Each pilot basically fights alone." Captain Davis studied the holographic displays showing different alien ship designs. "What about the Voltari?" "They rely heavily on advanced technology. Their ships have powerful shields and energy weapons, but they fight defensively, trying to stay out of range and pick off enemies from a distance." "And the Kelthans?" Ben pulled up more files. "Pure aggression. They charge straight at their enemies and try to destroy them in close combat. Very brave, but not very smart tactically." Captain Davis had commanded destroyers and cruisers in Earth's space fleet for 15 years. She understood something that the aliens did not. Individual ships, no matter how powerful, were vulnerable, but a coordinated fleet was nearly unstoppable. "None of them fight like a real navy," she said finally. "They're all just collections of individual warriors trying to prove how tough they are." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the alien species were making their own preparations for the upcoming trials. Most of them were not taking Earth seriously at all. On the Voltari homeworld, Admiral Crystalex was selecting which ships to send to the trials. Her aide suggested using their newest battlecruisers. "That would be overkill," Crystalex replied. "Send 3 patrol vessels. That should be more than enough to handle whatever primitive ships the humans bring." In the Kelthan warrior academies, young pilots were already making jokes about the upcoming demonstration. They called it the human comedy and placed bets on how quickly their ships would surrender. War Prime Gorthak was slightly more cautious. He decided to bring one full squadron of battle cruisers to the trials, not because he thought the humans were dangerous, but because he wanted to make sure the demonstration was impressive enough to discourage other primitive species from applying for alliance membership. "Let this be a lesson to all lesser races," he told his fleet commanders. "The alliance is for true warriors, not children playing with toys." Back on Earth, Admiral Lisa Hayes was holding final briefings with the crew commanders who would participate in the trials. The meeting took place in a secure conference room deep beneath the Pacific Fleet headquarters. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "in 2 weeks we will demonstrate to the galaxy what human naval power really means. Some of you will command destroyers and cruisers that the aliens will recognize as warships. Others will crew vessels they have never seen before." Commander Lisa Park raised her hand. She would be leading the destroyer squadron. "Admiral, what are our rules of engagement? Are we actually fighting these aliens or just putting on a show?" "The trials are supposed to be training exercises," Admiral Hayes replied. "But intelligence suggests that some alien commanders might use full military power to make their point more dramatically. We should be prepared for anything." Captain Tony Martinez, who would command the cruiser USS Hampton, spoke next. "What about the Leviathan? How much of her capabilities are we allowed to reveal?" Admiral Hayes looked around the room at the faces of officers who had trained their entire careers for this moment. "As much as necessary to ensure that Earth is taken seriously as a military power. The galaxy needs to understand that we are not children playing with water toys." The briefing continued for several hours as they reviewed tactical plans and emergency procedures. Each commander knew their role in the larger strategy. Captain Chris Wang would lead the first wave of destroyers, using traditional Earth fleet tactics to engage enemy scouts. Captain Maria Santos and Captain Alex Rodriguez would command the flanking squadrons, ready to execute classic naval maneuvers adapted for three-dimensional space combat. Lieutenant Karen Webb, the communications officer aboard the Leviathan, had been training with new equipment that would allow real-time coordination between all human ships. This was technology the aliens had never seen before because they had never needed it. Their ships always fought independently. As the meeting ended, Admiral Hayes addressed the group one final time. "Remember, we are not just representing Earth. In these trials, we are demonstrating that naval warfare is an art form that transcends the environment where it is practiced. The principles that governed fleet actions on Earth's oceans work just as well in the depths of space." The commanders left the briefing room and returned to their ships to make final preparations. In shipyards around Earth's solar system, crews loaded ammunition and supplies. Engineers ran last-minute tests on weapons and defense systems. The USS Leviathan remained hidden in the shadows behind Luna, where alien satellites could not detect her. Only her escort vessels were visible to outside observers. The aliens assumed that Earth's fleet consisted of 6 destroyers, 3 cruisers, and 1 large support ship. They had no idea that the support ship was actually the most advanced warship ever built by human hands. More importantly, they did not understand that every ship in Earth's fleet had been designed to work together as a single fighting force. The trials would begin in just a few days. Earth was ready to show the galaxy what naval warfare really meant. The Kepler 442 system was perfect for military trials. Dozens of asteroids floated in organized clusters, creating natural obstacles and hiding places. A large space station sat in the center of the field, representing the type of facility that Alliance fleets might need to defend. Ships from across the galaxy had gathered to watch the trials. Most of the observers came to see the humans fail spectacularly. Betting pools had been established on several worlds, with odds heavily favoring a complete human defeat within the first hour. High Commander Zikth stood on the bridge of his command vessel, watching the human fleet approach through the asteroid. Field, his 4 eyes focused on the tactical display showing Earth's ships. 6 destroyers, 3 cruisers, and 1 unidentified vessel, reported his tactical officer. The unknown ship appears to be some kind of cargo vessel or mobile base. Zikth's mandibles clicked with amusement. Humans bringing a supply ship to a battle. How typical of their primitive thinking. On the observation deck of the neutral monitoring station, War Prime Gorthak studied the same displays. His scarred face showed disappointment rather than amusement. "I expected more from a species that claims to have a military tradition," he said to his aide. "Their ships are smaller than our escort vessels." Admiral Crystalex's crystal body flashed pale blue as she calculated the probable outcome. This demonstration will be over quickly, perhaps too quickly to be educational. The first trial scenario was announced across all communication channels. A simulated enemy force would attack the space station using standard Zephyrian swarm tactics. The defending fleet would need to protect the station while eliminating all attackers. Commander Lisa Park received the mission briefing aboard her destroyer, the USS Ranger. Around her, the bridge crew prepared for combat with practiced efficiency. They had drilled these scenarios hundreds of times in Earth's training facilities. "Contact bearing 27 Mark 15, called out Lieutenant Jamie Cooper from the sensor station. "Multiple small craft approaching in attack formation." Lisa studied the tactical display. 48 Zephyrian fighters were approaching the E station in a classic swarm pattern. They moved without coordination, each pilot choosing his own attack vector. "Signal the fleet," Lisa ordered. "Execute formation Delta 7. Across the human formation, ship commanders acknowledged the order. Captain Chris Wang aboard the USS Falcon moved his destroyer to the designated position. Captain Maria Santos in the USS Hornet began a flanking maneuver that would bring her ship around behind the approaching swarm. The alien observers watched in mild interest as the human ships began to move. Most expected to see the destroyers charge forward and engage the fighters in individual combat, as was traditional in most galactic navies. Instead, something unprecedented happened. The 6 human destroyers formed a line perpendicular to the enemy approach vector. As the Zephyrian fighters closed in, the human ships turned to present their broadsides to the attackers. "What are they doing?" asked Zikth's tactical officer. "They are exposing their flanks to enemy fire." Lisa smiled as she watched the enemy. "Formation enter the kill zone. All ships execute crossing the T-fire when ready." The human destroyers opened fire simultaneously. Instead of each ship targeting individual enemies, their weapons were coordinated by the fleet tactical network. Every gun focused on the leading edge of the Zephyrian formation. 12 fighters were destroyed in the first salvo. The remaining attackers tried to scatter, but they found themselves flying directly into the firing arcs of the flanking destroyers. Captain Santos executed a perfect pincer movement, bringing her ship around to catch the scattered fighters from behind. Captain Rodriguez in the USS Eagle performed a similar maneuver from the opposite direction. Within minutes, the entire Zephyrian force had been eliminated. The human ships had suffered no damage at all. Silence filled the observation stations as alien commanders tried to understand what they had just witnessed. This was not how space battles were supposed to work. "Replay the engagement," ordered Admiral Crystalex. "I want to see exactly what those humans did." The tactical recording showed the human fleet moving like a single organism. Each ship knew exactly where the others would be and what they would do. No constant communication was needed because every commander understood the overall plan. War Prime Gorthak studied the formation diagrams with growing interest. They fought as one unit, not as individual ships. I have never seen such coordination. High Commander Zikth was less impressed. Clever tactics against fighters, perhaps, but they were facing scout vessels, not real warships. Wait until they encounter proper opposition. The second trial was announced. This time, a force of Voltari cruisers would attack the station using advanced energy weapons and shield technology. The defending fleet would face opponents with superior firepower and defensive systems. Captain Sarah Davis received the mission briefing aboard the USS Leviathan. Her massive ship had remained at the edge of the formation during the first trial, seemingly uninvolved in the fighting. "Ma'am," reported Lieutenant Commander Ben Rogers, 6 Voltari cruisers approaching. They're maintaining maximum range and using their shields to deflect our sensor scans. Sarah studied the tactical display. The Voltari ships were hanging back, trying to engage the human fleet from a distance where their energy weapons would be most effective. "Signal the destroyers to begin a fighting withdrawal," she ordered. "Make it look like we're retreating from superior firepower." The human destroyers began to fall back toward the Leviathan's position. To the alien observers, it looked like the humans had finally encountered opposition they could not handle. "There," said Admiral Crystalex with satisfaction. "Now they face real warships with proper technology. Watch how quickly their primitive tactics fail." The Voltari cruisers pressed their attack, moving closer to the retreating human destroyers. Their energy weapons reached out across space, forcing the smaller human ships to take evasive action. Captain Tony Martinez aboard the USS Hampton reported damage to his shields. "Ma'am, we're taking heavy fire. Request permission to engage." "Negative," Sarah replied calmly. "Continue the withdrawal. Lead them to the designated coordinates." The alien observers watched as the human destroyers appeared to flee in disorder. Some of the betting pools were already paying out to those who had wagered on human defeat. But Captain Davis was not retreating. She was drawing the enemy into position for a demonstration that would change galactic warfare forever. "All ships report ready," announced Lieutenant Karen Webb from her communications station. "The Voltari fleet is now within optimal range." Sarah looked around the bridge of her massive ship. Every crew member was at their station, ready to show the galaxy what human naval engineering could accomplish. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said quietly, "let's introduce our guests to the USS Leviathan." The huge ship that the aliens had dismissed, as a cargo vessel, suddenly came alive. Weapon systems that had been hidden within the hull extended and activated. Point defense networks that looked like communication arrays began tracking targets. Most impressive of all, the Leviathan's main. Battery turrets rotated to face the approaching Voltari cruisers. Each turret contained guns that dwarfed anything in the known galaxy. Admiral Crystalex's crystal body flashed bright red as her sensors registered the massive energy signatures. "That is not a cargo ship. What have the humans brought to this? Trial?" War Prime Gorthak leaned forward in his chair, studying the tactical readings with professional interest. "Those weapon systems are larger than our primary fleet batteries. How did they build something like that without anyone knowing?" High Commander Zikth felt a cold sensation in his thorax as he realized that Earth's fleet was not retreating in disorder. They were executing a carefully planned tactical maneuver that was about to demonstrate human naval power in a way that would shock the entire galaxy. The trials were far from over, and the humans had not yet begun to fight. War Prime Gorthak could no longer sit still and watch. The Voltari cruisers were about to learn what human naval power really meant, but he wanted to test these humans himself. His warrior pride demanded that he face them in proper combat. Signal. "The trial administrators," he commanded. "The Kelthan clans request permission to conduct an advanced combat scenario." The neutral observers were surprised by this request. Advanced scenarios used full military power instead of training weapons. Ships could be destroyed and crews could die. Admiral Crystallex's crystal body flashed orange with concern. "War Prime, that is highly irregular. These are supposed to be training exercises." "The humans claim to have a real military tradition," Gorthak replied. "Let us test that claim properly. I will bring my personal squadron to face their entire fleet in actual combat." High Commander Zikth was also concerned, but for different reasons. "If you destroy the human fleet completely, we will learn nothing about their capabilities." Gorthak's scarred face showed a fierce smile. "I do not intend to destroy them quickly. I want to see how long they can survive against real warriors using real weapons." The trial administrators approved the request after confirming that all participants understood the risks. Captain Sarah Davis received the new mission parameters aboard the USS Leviathan. "Ma'am," reported Lieutenant Commander Ben Rogers, "the scenario has changed. War Prime Gorthak is bringing 4 Kelthan battlecruisers armed with live weapons. This is now a live-fire exercise." Sarah studied the tactical displays showing the approaching Kelthan fleet. Each battlecruiser was twice the size of Earth's largest cruiser and carried enough firepower to level a city. "Signal all ships," she ordered. "We are now in actual combat. Rules of engagement are weapons-free. Show them what Earth's Navy can. Do." The message went out across the human fleet. On every ship, crews who had been treating this as an exercise suddenly realized they were about to fight for their lives against some of the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy. Captain Tony Martinez aboard the USS Hampton felt his heart rate increase as he studied the enemy formation. "All hands, this is the captain. We are now in live combat against superior forces. Remember your training and trust your shipmates." The Kelthan battlecruisers approached at high speed, their red hulls gleaming with weapons that could punch through any known armor. War Prime Gorthak stood on his command bridge, eager to see how these humans would react to facing real danger. "Target the largest human vessel first," he ordered. "That cargo ship they are hiding behind. Once we destroy their mobile base, the smaller ships will surrender or flee." The human fleet appeared to retreat again, pulling back toward the asteroid field. To Gorthak, this looked like the behavior he expected from inferior opponents facing superior force. "They run like frightened children," he said with contempt. "Increase speed. Do not let them escape into the asteroid field." But Captain Davis was not running away. She was drawing the Kelthan fleet into the killing ground she had prepared. "All destroyers, execute fighting withdrawal pattern 7, she commanded. "Make them think we're scared and disorganized." Commander Lisa Park aboard the USS Ranger began the most dangerous maneuver of her career. Her destroyer had to appear vulnerable while leading 4 massive battlecruisers exactly where Captain Davis wanted them. "We're taking fire," reported her tactical officer as Kelthan energy beams reached out across space. "Shields down to 60%. Lisa gritted her teeth as her ship shook under enemy fire. "Hold course. Lead them into the trap." The other human destroyers followed the same pattern, taking damage but continuing their apparent retreat. To the alien observers, it looked like the human fleet was being systematically destroyed by superior Kelthan firepower. Captain Martinez felt his ship shake as enemy weapons found their mark. Shield generators offline, hull breaches on decks 3 and 7. Damage control teams respond, he ordered calmly. Continue the withdrawal. We're almost in position. War Prime Gorthak watched with satisfaction as the human ships appeared, to flee in disorder. This was how battles should be fought, with superior warriors defeating inferior opponents through strength and courage. They cannot run forever, he told his bridge crew. Soon we will be close enough to finish them all with a single volley. The Kelthan battle cruisers pressed their attack, following the retreating human ships deeper into the asteroid field. They were now exactly where Captain Davis wanted them to be. All ships report in position, announced Lieutenant Karen Webb. Enemy fleet has entered the engagement zone. Sarah looked around the bridge of the USS Leviathan. Her crew had trained for this moment for years, but now they would discover if their preparations were enough to face the galaxy's most feared warriors. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to show them what a real navy looks like. All ships, execute. Plan Trafalgar. The USS Leviathan suddenly accelerated out of its position behind the asteroid cluster. The massive ship that the Kelthans had dismissed as a cargo vessel revealed itself as the largest warship ever built by human hands. Point defense systems that had looked like communication arrays suddenly blazed with energy, creating an impenetrable barrier around the human fleet. The Leviathan's main battery turrets, each one larger than a Kelthan escort ship, rotated to target the enemy battlecruisers. War Prime Gorthak felt his blood turn cold as his sensors registered the true size and power of the human flagship. That is impossible. No species builds ships that large. The Leviathan opened fire with weapons that combined human naval tradition with advanced technology. Each gun was based on the largest artillery pieces ever mounted on Earth's battleships, but scaled up to devastating proportions. The first salvo caught the lead Kelthan battlecruiser completely by surprise. The enemy ship's shields flared and collapsed under the massive impact. Secondary explosions rippled along its hull as internal systems overloaded. But the Leviathan was not fighting alone. The human destroyers that had appeared to be retreating, in disorder, suddenly turned and attacked with coordinated precision. Captain Chris Wang aboard the USS Falcon executed a perfect crossing maneuver, bringing his ship's weapons to bear on the second Kelthan battlecruiser. Captain Maria Santos and Captain Alex Rodriguez performed similar attacks from different vectors, their ships moving like wolves attacking a larger predator. The alien observers watched in shock as the human fleet demonstrated a level of coordination that no galactic navy had ever achieved. Every ship knew exactly where the others would be and what they would do. No constant communication was needed because every commander understood the overall battle plan. Lieutenant Karen Webb coordinated the tactical data sharing that allowed the entire human fleet to fight as a single unit. Information flowed between ships instantly, letting each captain see the complete tactical picture. Second enemy vessel taking critical damage, reported Lieutenant Commander Ben Rogers. Third vessel attempting to disengage. War Prime Gorthak found himself in the unfamiliar position of facing defeat. His battlecruisers, which had seemed so powerful minutes ago, were being systematically destroyed by opponents he had considered primitives. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "Their individual ships are smaller than ours. Their weapons should not be able to penetrate our armor." His tactical officer studied the sensor readings with confusion. "Sir, they are not fighting as individual ships. Somehow they are coordinating their attacks with perfect timing. When one ship fires, the others adjust their targeting to maximize the damage." The fourth Kelthan battlecruiser tried to escape, but Captain Tony Martinez was waiting. Despite the damage his ship had taken, the USS Hampton intercepted the fleeing vessel and engaged it at close range. "For Earth," Martinez said quietly as his ship's weapons found their target. Within 20 minutes, the entire Kelthon squadron had been defeated. 3 battle cruisers were destroyed and 1 was crippled beyond repair. The human fleet had suffered damage, but no ships had been lost. War Prime Gorthak's own command ship had been disabled by concentrated fire from 4 human destroyers working together. As emergency power flickered on his bridge, he realized that everything he thought he knew about space warfare was wrong. The USS Leviathan moved into position above the disabled Kelthon flagship. The massive human ship cast a shadow over Gorthak's vessel, its weapon system still trained on potential targets. Captain Sarah Davis opened a communication channel to the defeated Kelthon commander. "War Prime Gorthak, do you require assistance with evacuation procedures?" Gorthak stared at the tactical displays showing the human fleet in perfect formation around his disabled ships. These were not the primitive waterboat operators he had expected to face. These were warriors who had mastered the art of coordinated warfare in ways his people never imagined. "How?" was all he could manage to say. Sarah's voice came through the speakers with quiet confidence. "We learned to fight on the most dangerous ocean of our homeworld before we came to the stars. The principles of naval warfare do not change, just because the battlefield is bigger. The trials were over, but the demonstration had just begun." The USS Leviathan moved slowly through space until it reached a position directly above the trial monitoring station. The massive ship blocked out the stars as it assumed a geosynchronous orbit over the facility where the Galactic Defense Council had gathered to watch. On the observation deck, alien delegates stared up at the human flagship through reinforced windows. The ship was so large that they could only see part of its hull from their vantage point. Weapon turrets that could destroy cities rotated slowly as they tracked potential threats. High Commander Zikth felt his 4 hearts beating rapidly as he studied the tactical displays. How did they build something that large without our intelligence networks detecting it? Admiral Crystallex's crystal body had turned a pale gray color, indicating shock and confusion. "Our sensors show that ship has more firepower than most planetary defense systems. It is not just large, it is completely beyond our understanding of ship design." War Prime Gorthak sat in a medical chair, his arm in a regeneration sleeve from injuries suffered when his flagship was disabled. Despite his wounds, his eyes remained fixed on the displays showing the human fleet in perfect formation around the station. "I have fought in over 50 major battles," he said quietly. "I have faced the best warriors in the galaxy, but I have never seen anything like what those humans did today." Admiral Lisa Hayes received clearance to dock at the monitoring station. As she walked through the corridors toward the council chamber, alien delegates stepped aside to let her pass. The mocking laughter from their first meeting had been replaced by careful respect. Captain Jake Morrison followed behind her, carrying updated files on Earth's military capabilities. The datapads now contained information that would change how the galaxy viewed human naval power. They entered the council chamber, where the same delegates who had laughed at Earth's navy now sat in stunned silence. The holographic displays showed the aftermath of the trials. 4 Kelthon battlecruisers floated dead in space while human ships maintained protective formations around them. "Honored delegates," Lisa began, "Earth's demonstration is complete. We trust this has answered any questions about our military readiness." High Commander Zikth stood up slowly. His insect-like body moved with none of the arrogance he had shown during their first meeting. "Admiral Hayes, we owe you an apology. We clearly underestimated both your capabilities and your intentions." "We did not come here seeking apologies," Lisa replied. "We came to join an alliance dedicated to protecting civilized space. Today we proved that Earth can contribute to that mission." A delegate from the Thrakari Dominion raised his hand. "Admiral, our intelligence services reported that Earth's largest ships were less than 500 meters long. How did you construct a vessel over 2 kilometers in length without anyone knowing?" Lisa smiled. "Earth has many moons and asteroid belts where construction can take place away from prying eyes. But more importantly, we did not just build a ship. We applied 3,000 years of naval doctrine to stellar warfare." Admiral Crystalex's body flashed blue as she processed this information. "You mean your tactics came from fighting on your planet's oceans? Every principle of fleet warfare that served us well on Earth's seas works equally well in space," Lisa explained. "Coordination, mutual support, concentrated firepower, tactical deception. The environment changes, but the fundamental concepts remain the same." War Prime Gorthak struggled to his feet, refusing help from his aide. "Admiral Hayes, I must ask a direct question. How many ships like the Leviathan does Earth possess?" Jake glanced at Lisa, wondering how much they should reveal. She nodded slightly, giving him permission to answer. "The USS Leviathan is the first of her class," Jake said carefully, "but she is not the only vessel of her size currently under construction." The council chamber erupted in surprised voices as delegates discussed this revelation among themselves. The thought of multiple ships like the Leviathan existing sent shockwaves through their military planning departments. High Commander Zikth called for order. "Admiral Hayes, the Galactic Defense Council formally accepts Earth's application for alliance membership. We also request that human naval advisors be assigned to train our fleets in your coordination techniques. We would be honored to share our knowledge," Lisa replied. "But first, let me explain something that seems to have confused many of you today." She activated a holographic display showing Earth's solar system. Dozens of shipyards appeared on the projection, each one building vessels based on human naval designs. "You assumed we were primitive because we learned to fight on water before we reached space. You saw this as a weakness. But every challenge we faced on Earth's oceans prepared us for the greater ocean of space." The hologram showed images of ancient Earth naval battles, from wooden sailing ships to modern aircraft carriers. Each era had contributed lessons that were now being applied to stellar warfare. We learned that the sea does not care about your individual courage or the size of your ship. It only respects preparation, teamwork, and the wisdom that comes from facing storms that could destroy you. Lisa gestured toward the windows where the Leviathan could be seen floating in space above them. "Space is simply a bigger ocean." "Captain," Sarah Davis's voice came through the communication system from the Leviathan's bridge. "Admiral Hayes, we have completed rescue operations for the Kelthan survivors. All personnel have been recovered safely." "Thank you, Captain," Lisa replied. "Please maintain position until we conclude our discussions here." War Prime Gorthak looked up at the massive ship visible through the chamber windows. "Admiral, I must ask another question. Your ship could have destroyed my entire squadron in the first minute of combat. Why did you allow the battle to continue?" Lisa's expression became serious. "Because we are not conquerors, War Prime. We are defenders. Earth's navy exists to protect civilized space, not to dominate it. Today's demonstration was meant to prove our capabilities, not to humiliate brave warriors. The Kelthan leader nodded, with respect. Your restraint shows wisdom as well as strength. My people would be honored to learn from your naval traditions. Admiral Crystalex had been studying the tactical recordings of the battle. Your coordination systems allowed perfect unity of action. How do you train crews to work together so effectively? The same way Earth's navies have always trained, Jake explained. Constant practice, clear communication, and absolute trust in your fellow sailors. We spend years learning to work as one crew, not just individual specialists. The delegate from the Thrakari Dominion asked about the Leviathan's weapon systems. Those guns appear to be scaled-up versions of planetary artillery. Why use such primitive technology instead of energy weapons? Lisa explained that human naval doctrine emphasized proven concepts over exotic technology. Our weapons may look simple, but they are reliable, powerful, and work well with our tactical systems. Sometimes the old ways are better than the new ways. The discussion continued for several hours, as alien military leaders tried to understand how Earth had developed such effective naval capabilities in secret. The answers revealed a level of strategic planning that impressed even the most experienced galactic commanders. As the meeting concluded, High Commander Zikth stood to make a formal announcement. The Galactic Defense Council not only welcomes Earth into our alliance, but requests that human naval doctrine be studied by all member fleets. Admiral Hayes, will you accept the position of Alliance Naval Advisor? Lisa looked around the chamber at faces that had shown mockery just days ago and now displayed genuine respect. Earth accepts this honor. We look forward to working with all Alliance members to defend civilized space. As they prepared to leave the station, Jake asked one final question. Admiral, what happens now? The galaxy knows about the Leviathan, but they don't know about the other ships under construction. Lisa walked to the observation window and looked up at the massive ship floating in space above them. In the distance, she could see other human vessels maintaining their protective formation. Now we go home and continue building our fleet. The USS Kraken and USS Behemoth will be ready for service within the year. The galaxy has seen what one Titan-class ship can do. Soon, they will see what an entire fleet can accomplish. Captain Morrison joined her at the window. Do you think they'll ever underestimate us again? Lisa smiled as she watched the Leviathan's weapon turrets rotate slowly, scanning space for potential threats. Jake, they laughed at our Navy because they thought it was primitive. They won't make that mistake again. The shuttle bay doors opened as Admiral Hayes and her party prepared to return to their ship. Behind them, alien delegates continued their discussions about the implications of Earth's naval power. But on the bridge of the USS Leviathan, Captain Sarah Davis was already planning for the future. The demonstration was over, but Earth's real work in space was just beginning. The galaxy had learned that the human navy was not a collection of primitive water boats. It was the most advanced and coordinated fighting force in known space, built on traditions that stretched back thousands of years. And this was only the beginning of what Earth could accomplish among the stars.